The second part of getting deeply emotionally committed to your dreams is what I call a daily quiet time ritual. Once you get the plan written out, the prosperity plan, the idea now is that we want to put that plan into the box. We want to program it into your subconscious mind. The quiet time ritual is very simple. It's 10 to 15 minutes a day of reviewing your plan on a consistent basis. And as you review your plan, that prosperity plan, you do, as Napoleon Hill said, imagine yourself already in possession of these things. Allow yourself to get emotionally excited about having these things, even though you may not have them yet. So 10 to 15 minutes a day, reviewing your plan and getting deeply emotionally committed. As you read the plan, you want to visualize the outcomes. You want to see yourself crossing that finish line at the marathon. You want to see yourself, running leaves the way you should in sales and making the income. You want to see yourself treating your spouse the way you want to treat them, and you see the outcome of that relationship and that loving, experience that you have with them. You want to visualize it. Allow yourself to get excited about it. Allow yourself to get deeply emotionally committed. Now, the quiet time ritual is important for two really important reasons. The first thing is it allows us to put all the things from your prosperity plan into your box. A lot of times people write down goals, and I'm sure everybody watching here has written down goals at some point. The problem is when you just write down a goal and you don't review it on a consistent basis, it's like putting it next to the box, right? The problem is, during the course of your day, you're going to make thousands of seemingly inconsequential decisions, and when you make those decisions, you're going to reach in that box, right? Well, if the plan is next to the box, you might reach in and pull out something your dad, told you 30 years ago. Again, the key is to making sure the decisions that we're making today are consistent with the things we want today. We got to make sure the things on our prosperity plan are right there in the top of the box. And that's what the quiet time ritual is all about. So the first part of the quiet time ritual, as I review it for 10 or 15 minutes, I am consistently putting those things into the box. I'm loading up those decisions, those choices, those dreams in my box. So when I make decisions throughout my day, they're very close, and I reach in, I make those decisions because they're so fresh in my mind. So that's an important part of the entire process, making sure that you put those things on your prosperity plan into your box so they're readily available when you make your decisions. But there's another part to the quiet time ritual that's equally important. One of the things I've learned in my life is that the successful people, the most successful people, they tend to live their lives in the present moment. You have the past, you have the present, and you have the future. And successful people tend to spend the vast majority of their time living in the present moment. Yes, they look at the past and they learn from the past, and yes, they look at the future and plan for the future, but 95% of their time is devoted right here into the present moment, doing the things that make their life better. Now, think about the least successful people you know. Think about the most miserable person you know in your life. Where does he or she spend the vast majority of their time, consciously? In the past. Angry, resentful, bitter about some divorce or some boss or some bankruptcy, some situation from their past. People who are unhappy, people who are miserable, people who are unsuccessful tend to spend a disproportionate part of their time angry and thinking about the past. Then, of course, you have neurotic people, right? They're thinking about the future and worried about the future. What if I don't have enough money next month? Or, what if this person leaves me or whatever? They're worried about all these things in the future. So we've got failures and losers focusing on the past. We've got neurotics focusing on the future. And we've got successful people, the most prosperous people, focusing in the present moment. So we've got to learn how to do that. The quiet time ritual will help you to focus in the present moment. Here's the thing. We all have scars and wounds from the past. We all have concerns about the future. But we have to learn to live in the present moment without being, obsessed with those things, without being distracted by those things. And as you live in the present moment, you will find that there is no pain, there is no anger or resentment in the present moment. There is no anxiety in the present moment. Those things only exist in our minds in the past and the future. I'll prove it to you. Pick up an item in front of you. Any item. Could be a pen, a cup of coffee, a cell phone, doesn't matter what it is. And when I say go, I'm going to mark off 15 seconds. And during those 15 seconds, I want you to describe that item in your hand in painstaking detail. The shape, the color, the contour, the temperature. If there's writing on it, read each letter, describe each letter to yourself in painstaking detail. This is all I want you to think about, all I want you to focus on for 15 seconds. Ready? Go. That's 15 seconds. Now, let me ask you a question. During those 15 seconds, where was your conscious mind? Yes, it was in the present moment. You were completely absorbed in the present moment. Now, let me ask you a question. During those 15 seconds, was there anything from your past that you were angry or hurt about? No. Because when you're focused on the present moment, there is no recognition of the past. There is no pain. Those memories, you're not thinking about them because your consciousness can only be focused on one place at a time. And when you're concentrating on something like that, you're focused right here in the present moment. You're not angry or hurt. Was there anybody watching this that was worried about something from the future during those 15 seconds? Probably not. Because again, your mind was absorbed in the present moment. You see, this is the key to success, learning to live in the present moment. But here's the thing. What I want you to do with respect to the quiet time ritual, I want you to take 15 minutes. Instead of 15 seconds, I want you to take 15 minutes. And instead of picking up that item in your hand, I want you to pick up your prosperity plan. And for 15 minutes a day, I want you to review that plan. I want you to describe it to yourself in painstaking detail. I want you to visualize the outcomes. I want you to experience the emotions as if you've already achieved these things. And during those 15 minutes, you're going to shut out the past and you're going to shut out the future. And you know what you're going to realize? You're going to realize it feels really, really good to live in the present moment. It's a fabulous feeling, purpose, focus, intensity. And what happens is that we learn the feeling of not carrying around the baggage of the hurt from the past or the worry about the future. You know, we carry these things around, resentments and anger and fears of the future, and we don't even realize how subtly they're just taking over our life. But when you take 15 minutes a day and you set them down for 15 minutes, pick up your prosperity plan, you know what happens? When you realize how good it feels not to be thinking about those things, when you're done with your prosperity plan, your quiet time ritual, you'll realize what it feels like when you pick them back up. Because some of you out there, I know, you're gluttons for punishment. And if you are, that stuff will be sitting right there waiting for you to pick back up at the end of your quiet time ritual. But what happens is you start recognizing how it feels. You start recognizing the feeling of not carrying it around for those 15 minutes. And then when you pick it back up, whoa, that doesn't feel good. Right? I'm not going to be mad at that ex-wife today. I'm not going to worry about that future situation today. And you start living in the present moment. And that, my friends, is the key to success. You got to write it out. You got to review it for 15 minutes a day. By the way, during that 15 minutes a day, you know what else you're doing? You're reconnecting these neural connectors. You're rerouting all those things. Remember those astronauts? You're constructing all these new neural pathways so that everything on that prosperity plan, everything that you experience in that quiet time ritual, those become the expectations. Those income goals, those personal goals. Now your reticular activating system's on high alert. It's looking for the ways to make sure you have that relationship, to make sure you have that income. All of a sudden, you're searching for answers. Your subconscious mind is trying to figure all these things out. Everything about your subconscious mind, everything about the reticular activating system, everything about your emotional energy, everything is focused on accomplishing those things in the prosperity plan. And with that kind of focus, that kind of enthusiasm, what do you think the likelihood is you're going to reach those dreams? 100%. It's just a matter of when it happens, not if it happens. It's a matter of when it happens. So write that plan out and review it on a consistent basis. Now listen, as you review your plan for 15 minutes a day, keep in mind it's critically important to get deeply emotionally connected to those things. You can't just read it. You can't just review it real quick. You have to get deeply connected to it. When you read each thing, imagine how it's going to feel when you happen. I remember my first prosperity plan was when I was in prison. The first thing on mine was, I'm an awesome father to my son. And so when I would read that, I would imagine what it would be like to have this relationship with my son, to be that kind of father. And I would picture it and see it. 7 years later, I got out of prison. I got my son when he was 10 years old, and I raised him until he was 18. He went off to college. Now, when my son went off to college, I didn't want some big emotional event, right? I didn't want some big scene. I wanted him to go off and to become a man and live his own life. And he's just going to school at University of Colorado, not very far away where I live in Colorado Springs. So I didn't want to make a big deal of it. So we got in the car, drove him up there, and we got to the dormitory where he was going to be living his first year in college. We pulled up in front of the dorm, and we walk in the building, and there's this lady, and she's checking the kid's name off of a list when they walk in. So he said, I'm Hunter Long, and she checks him off of a list. She turns to my son, and she says, mandatory housing meeting, 3 p.m. And I said, yes, ma'am, we'll be there. And she turns to me, and she says, oh, no, you won't. At 3 o'clock, he's a grown man, no parents allowed. And all of a sudden it hits me that this is a big moment in his life and a big moment in my life. I'm not dropping him off for the weekend. I'm dropping him off, and at 3 o'clock, He's supposed to be an adult, right? According to the University of Colorado, good luck with that one. But in their mind at 3 o'clock, he's a grown man. And it hits me that this is like a whole new chapter of his life. This is a new beginning. This is what I've been working on for 15 years, was to create the situation that my son could have these opportunities. So I start getting kind of, melancholy about the whole thing, a little bit emotional. So we spend the day going around campus and getting him signed up for his classes and getting his books and setting up his dormitory room and all these things. And I get out the driver's door, my son gets out the passenger door, and he's getting a few things out of the back of the car. And I'm just looking at this beautiful, beautiful boy. This young boy who somehow, without even me noticing, became a man, a young man. And I'm going to tell you something. My son is a remarkable young man. He, the first 10 years of his life, I was in prison for 7 of those years. His mother was addicted to drugs. He was homeless for part of that time. Experienced things that you couldn't even imagine that a young person should not experience. And yet I got him at 10 years old, and my son decided that he was never going to allow those situations to determine his future. And so he worked hard to get himself through high school, into college, and here he was. And I was just so proud of him and so filled with love for him and appreciation for him as a human being. And he was standing there, and I gave him a big hug. I put my arms around him, and I said, son, I said, my greatest wish for you is that one day you will have a son that you love the same way that I love you, because that's the only way you're ever going to know what it feels like to be your father. And, of course, he's 18 years old, and I'm hugging him, and there's kids around all the place. He's like, Dad, what is the matter with you today? And it kind of pushes me away. He's like, are you dying or something? And, no, son, I'm not dying. Everything's right as rain. But 15 years ago, when your grandfather died, I made a decision that I was going to be the father that you deserved. I wrote on a sheet of paper, I'm an awesome father to my son. And everything I've done, son, for 15 years is to get us to this point right here, to have the relationship we have and to have the experiences that you're having in your life. And so I put my hands on his shoulders, and I said, son, words cannot even describe how much I love you and how proud I am of the man you've become. And my 18-year-old son, he stands upright, he looks me dead in the eye. He reaches up and takes my hands and puts them down by my side, and he puts his hands on my shoulders. And my son leans into me, he says, no, Dad, I'm proud of the man you finally became. And that moment with my son was beyond perfection. It was beyond sublime. The mutual love, the mutual respect, the mutual recognition that, hey, man, we made it. Through all this insanity, through 15 years of craziness, we made it. We survived. We thrived. Through all that adversity, through all that difficulty, together, we won the good fight. But the most amazing thing about that moment with my son, the way it felt, the emotion I felt, the excitement, the enthusiasm I felt, it was the exact same way it used to feel when I was pretending it alone in a prison cell 15 years earlier. You see, that's what Napoleon Hill meant by having a burning desire to achieve your dream. When I was sitting in my cell reviewing that plan, imagining myself being a great father to my son, I would allow myself to get passionate about it, excited about it, right? Totally committed to it. And when it happened 15 years later, it felt just the way I always thought it would. That's what I mean by emotional commitment to your dreams. That's what it means about having your dreams infect every cell of your body and becoming another strand of your DNA. You got to write the plan out, and you got to review it for 15 minutes a day. Allow it to recondition the brain. Put all those things in the box and allow them to drive all of your behaviors. As you'll see in the next step, the action step, how all the actions start happening very naturally as a result of that quiet time ritual. So take the time, write the plan out, review it for 15 minutes a day, get deeply emotionally committed to it, picture it, imagine it, see it, visualize it, and I guarantee you, it's not a matter of if it happens, it's a matter of when.